All right, let's do it live on a Reaction Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. He is the great Z. Well, for 3 quarters, and then it's the fourth. And it is one of these things where that is a new way for us to lose this year. We haven't lost like that yet. It wasn't particularly enjoyable. It was pretty shocking the way that it went down in the fourth quarter. And now you're talking about a short week and arguably the hottest team in football, or one of them, coming in here on Thursday. Less than ideal, my friend.
Yeah, and I mean, if I had told you before the game that Jameis was going to throw for about 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, we would not turn the football over and, in fact, have 2 takeaways from the New Orleans Saints, you would say we won.
That's right.
If I told you, well, there was a 21-point spread in the game, you say, oh, so we blew them out. No, not. Obviously, we came out on the short end of it. And, you know, there are a lot of things in this game that were very disappointing. You knew coming into it that the New Orleans Saints did not have really an NFL wide receiver on the roster outside of Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who had joined the team but 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was the big play threat. You knew their team revolved around 2 people on offense.
Yep.
Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. Mm-hmm. And you knew that if you did not pressure Derek Carr, he would make you pay. And Taysom Hill accounted for over 200 yards of total offense, 3 touchdowns. He looked like Jim Brown out there, 7 carries for 138 yards and 3 scores. He completed a pass in the game. He caught 8 passes for 50 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about him and Frank Gifford, the only ones who have hit that 30, 10, and 10 plateau. Right. And he looked like a gold jacket in this game against us. And I think there's a lot of questions. People were very unhappy with, some of the perceived efforts at times in this game. Just a very disappointing one. Dustin Hopkins missing 2 field goals. I mean, it's a totally different game because it was 14-14 going in the fourth. D-Hop misses 2 field goals in the second quarter, including one where he really missed 3 field goals because he missed from 32 and then 27 on consecutive kicks, which is unfathomable when you think about how good he was last year. It's just, this team did a lot of little things that added up to a loss. And I think, so much was made at the beginning of the season about the quarterback position. You got elite quarterback play in this one from Jameis Winston. Your receivers played well. Jerry Jeudy's second highest receiving yards game of his career. Elijah Moore played well. David Njoku played well. We still couldn't really get the ground game going, but we had great quarterback play. We scored 14 points.
Yep.
Now, if it was you could have gotten up to 23 if you made the field goals, whatnot, but because you would have kicked a field goal in the fourth quarter when you're down 28-14. It would have been 28-20. You'd have kicked a field goal, it would have been fine. That being said, you gave up 35 points to the New Orleans Saints, a team that had not reached that since week 2 of this season. You gave up 473 yards of offense. You gave up 8.2 yards per play. 8.2 yards per play and over 200 yards rushing on the day. 214 to be exact. At 7.6 yards per carry. It's one thing if you said, okay, the offense, hasn't been what it was. This defense has not, unfortunately, been what it was. And this was I said at the end of this is a massively disappointing season. To be 2-8 right now, where you are on the ropes if it's not already over, you feel like you're on the Mike Tyson side of the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight where you're not allowed to go forward, where you just stand there. Yeah, we're standing still, and we're taking body blows from Taysom Hill. And now it doesn't get any easier. Thursday night, you mentioned it, hottest team in the league. Now, the one good news is Browns have won 8 straight on Thursday night at home, 2 of those over the Steelers. And the last time, Bo, that the number 1 team in the AFC North came to Cleveland, they were sent home with a loss.
What more can we say? Let's go to
That's
Thursday.
It. Let's go.
I'm convinced. Let's go to Thursday.
Go.
In all seriousness.
I was being serious.
I know. Well, look, this is what we do. You said something about these little things. And I talk about it with little kids I coach. You can talk about it at high school and college and all the way to the National Football League. If you start doing a bunch of little things wrong, they become big things and they become who you are.
Yep.
This is now who we are. We have not scored 20 points in a football game save for once all year. Who else in the NFL can claim that? Is there anybody who's worse than us when it comes to scoring points? Can't be. And then when there is frustration that stacks, it manifests with what happened in the fourth. And this is the first time that I've seen some of the effort stuff crop up. I hadn't seen that with this team. Things have not gone well. It's well documented. But this was the first time that you saw kind of like, wait a second, Delpit makes the hit on Hill, and then Hill actually like looks around. Is anyone going to chase me? Nah, I'm good.
That was on the 4th down one.
Yeah.
And again, that's thing too we've talked about.
Where's the other 10?
But you've got to wrap.
Right, but where's the other 10? His job as a safety is to make the play. He didn't, but he slowed him down. Where's everybody else?
I'll tell you what, that one wasn't even as bad as the last one, the 75-yarder. He's at quarterback.
Yeah.
You know he's running the ball, given the game script at that time. And he goes he's a tight end.
That's right.
He's a big guy. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Kyler Murray where he can just burst and be gone. And he went untouched, save for a fingertip on his shoulder pad. He went untouched for 75 yards in a situation where you know he's running. How's that happen?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah.
So this is the first time that we've had this type of calamity with effort.
Yes.
And so the task for Kevin Stefanski this week and the leadership of this team, and I'm talking about the guys who are the foundation of this team. For Denzel was sensational. Miles, Denzel, Nick Chubb, Joel Bitonio. The job this week is to show up on Thursday for your home fans in a rivalry game and play the role of spoiler for them.
Yep.
We are long past the idea of this machination to get to what we wanted to be at the beginning. That's long past. You just have to try to show up on a Thursday night and play spoiler, and be accountable.
Be accountable, and you're 1-4 at home after going 8-1 at home last year, including a win over the Steelers at home last year when Dorian Thompson-Robinson had to start and leads you down the field, and you get that field goal victory. You're exactly right. The Browns are in a position right now that we thought was unfathomable, and that is that here we are going into Week 12 of the NFL season, that you are hoping to, in some ways, do what if there was a down year, which has not been in a great long time, but a down year for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, we get Michigan at home at the end of the year. Let's beat them.
Just invert it. Michigan this year.
Right. Their whole
thing comes down to, do we beat Ohio State in 2 weeks?
And if they do, they'll feel
victory
much
on the
happier.
season. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you've done that with the Ravens. You need to do that with the Steelers, and you need to stop the momentum that they have built. And they won another game. I know they did it in Week 1. I don't know if they've done it any other times, but they have won another game in which they did not score a touchdown, they being the Pittsburgh Steelers. 6 Chris Boswell field goals, 3 of them from 50+.
Yep.
And they beat Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens.
That's right.
18-16. That's incredible. They did not score a touchdown, and they beat the Baltimore Ravens. So this is a team that's playing very good defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are physical. Russell Wilson's making enough plays down the field. And, the thing that I took away from this Saints game that really troubled me is we were completely out-physicaled. And if you show up with that kind of performance from a physicality standpoint against the Steelers, it is going to be a long, long Thursday night. And I go back to the opening drive. You're going against a team in New Orleans that had allowed over 5 yards of carry to running backs this season. Most in the NFL, you go for 4th and 1 near midfield with Nick Chubb, and you can't get a yard.
Yep.
Can't get a yard. You go for it for 2, you're not able to get. I mean, there were so many kind of short yardage, intense plays that the Browns were on the wrong side of the physical outcome that this is a lunch pail and a hard hat game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know that. We all know that. That's just the way they play. That is a physical brand of football, and the Browns have got to be ready to match that physicality. And quite frankly, they owe it to themselves, and they owe it to the fans to go out there on Thursday night at home on national TV. I mean, the last time we were on Thursday night at home on national television was the Browns and the Jets.
Yeah.
And we clinched the playoffs, and it was euphoric. It's one of my favorite memories as being a part of this organization for over a decade. One of my favorite games that I've ever called. It was euphoric. It was a party in the city. That wasn't even 12 months ago.
Feels like a decade ago, honestly, the way this season's gone.
It does.
Yeah.
The Hoff hadn't even gone to Munich yet.
No.
And to think that now this is our return to Thursday night and how different everything is, how different the vibe will be, but there still is a job to do, and you have an opportunity on a national stage to show your heart, your fortitude, and try to topple, the top team in your division for the second time this season.
There's a professionalism that is the minimum requirement. And that is what you hope to see on Thursday. Is you hope to see the accountability, the effort, the fire, put your best foot forward. That's the job now.
This team is supposed to be 3 things: smart, tough, accountable.
Yeah.
At least give me the last 2.
Yeah.
That you can control. We still made this game only 3 penalties, but the penalties we had, unfortunately, were outside of the DeWine. We had 2 of them that were fairly inopportune.
Yeah.
Just play good football, play hard football, play fundamental football, match the intensity and the physicality of the Steelers, and make them come here and work. They have not been able to beat you on a Thursday night in this stadium. Don't let them. Don't let them. Keep that going and at least take from that, okay, because we talked about it, and I'll tell you what, you talked about this second half of the season being about, seeing some of our foundational building blocks for the future. JOK's out. You lose Mike Hall in practice to the injured reserve, and then one that stung me deeply personally is one of my favorite guys on this roster, DeWan Jones, through no fault of his own, gets rolled up on while he's engaged in a block and snaps his ankle. And now he's out for the year.
Yeah, we kind of laid that out last week on the show. Like, obviously, even last week before the results of Sunday, any road towards accomplishing your goals was going to be very, very difficult and uphill both ways. But you thought, okay, let's see if we've got a franchise left tackle.
Yep.
Let's see Big Thanos play left tackle for an 8-game stretch, and let's see what that looks like. And now you're robbed of that. Let's see what Mike Hall can be.
Yes.
How disruptive can he be in the middle? Is he somebody that occasionally you can move him outside, and will he be as disruptive out there? Yes. But now we may not see that. Now he's on IR, but we don't know how that happened on Saturday, but that happened in practice. And this JOK stuff's really scary. So these are – you can't even – right now, you're not even able to – and I heard Kevin was asked this question about DeWan specifically. Like, how do you evaluate him based on how little he played? And he gave an answer about, look, we have him in practice, so forth and so on. But, like, DeWan, when he plays and is healthy, is great. But this is now the first 2 seasons of his career of no fault of his own where he can't get through a season healthy. So, like, when you go into the offseason – it's very unlikely. I mean, this is me talking. I have no idea the organization. Very unlikely to me that Jed Wills would be back. And now you have this DeWan Jones situation as well. I know DeWan will be back, but like he hasn't been through a season healthy.
Correct. I think you feel good about him. And in fact, this was his best performance of the season. Did not allow a single pressure. He was
great.
Dominant on Chase Young. I mean, completely vaporized him, erased him from that game. That's why they call him Thanos. He was sensational in this game. He was as good as you can be. His pass grade, even to go to Pro Football Focus's grade, was elite. That is a massive loss. You go into next season, 100% that guy's our starting left tackle. Now, you have to understand it's going to be so important for him and everybody on his team and everybody in his corner. Keep him positive and then keep him doing whatever he can because it's going to be difficult to maintain the proper weight. Yeah. That's what you worry about. He's such a big guy, 6'8", 375 pounds. But I think he showed you everything, and we'll talk with Joe Thomas about it. I would say Joe would agree completely. In fact, I know he does. He's shown you everything you need to know that that's your starting left tackle next year, and everything else you can worry about everything else.
All right, let me do one thing fun. How was the meal?
It was very good. Commander's Palace, excellent turtle soup.
Did you do the soup trio thing, or did you just went turtle and roll the dice?
We were not on a choose your own adventure. So
okay.
We were turtle soup.
It was fix.
Yep. Salad.
How's the turtle soup?
Good, but again, like everything there, it's just so
heavy.
Yeah. And then we had the pecan crusted redfish, which was.
Wait a second. You weren't able to like order what you wanted?
No, it was a fixed menu. It was a big group.
So you just had you couldn't pick like.
So we got that,
pork
and then you
or
also
fish,
got the filet.
And the filet.
Yeah. They gave you like a smaller portion of the fish, smaller portion of the filet, and then a bread pudding, which I didn't eat because I was going to get banana cream pie.
And how was that?
Didn't happen. Didn't exist. We'll pull up at the bar, said, hey, we're here for some banana cream pie at Emerald's. Yeah, we don't have it anymore. We moved it to our other restaurant, which is a 5-minute walk away. Called them. Nope, kitchen's closed. No more banana cream pie. Okay. I mean, I should have known at that point we were not beating the Saints.
You got one job?
Yeah.
Emerald? Barbecue shrimp, banana cream pie. Certainly this all will be saved because Gibby got to Koshan, which is 2 minutes from his hotel.
Yeah, Gibby, how
was that? Did you have a good meal there? What'd you get? Pork cheek, pork belly? How'd it go?
I didn't necessarily make it there.
Did you get that Elmer T. Lee?
I think Gibby
$6 pour?
I think Gibby had like a hamburger.
You didn't go?
No, I didn't go.
It was 2 minutes.
I know.
So what did you do?
We went to Mulati's.
What's that?
It's a Cajun restaurant.
Hold on a second. Just so I'm clear. You went to the biggest tourist trap in New Orleans.
I believe we did.
The biggest tourist trap
I believe we did.
in New Orleans. And you were 2 minutes from one of the great meals that you were going to have, and instead you went to the biggest tourist trap in New Orleans. You could have texted me. You could have said,
Yeah, I know.
No,
hey, what do you think about?
All he had
you know
to do
anything
was
about this
walk
place? And I
outside.
said, yeah, I know that place. Don't go there.
There were a million places literally within 2 blocks of our hotel. A million that he could have gone to. By the way, I will say this for Commander's Palace. One thing they did that I've never seen before. We had some nice wine, which was great. Really accompanied the meal nicely. A lovely 1998 Bordeaux,
Nice.
which was lovely. They did something I have never seen before at a restaurant, certainly not at a fine dining. The second you took a sip of wine, it was filled right back up to the top. You take 2 sips, 2 sips. Your glass.
Oh, they
that
were on
leads
it.
to a host of problems.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There were comments the next
Maybe
day
that
were
would
like,
explain why Siciliano yesterday was like, yeah, I won't be drinking anytime soon.
Oh, good job out of them.
That was great. I loved it. I thrived.
I'm sorry.
Gibbe
I was
very
with a group.
disappointing.
The youngsters, they wanted to hit Little Bourbon Street.
How many
Connor's birthday. It
do
was
you
a
know-
whole
You know
the
young
whole
people are
mess of
idiots.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then if I'm not going, like, that's not a good look.
It's a fine look. Just say, I'll meet you down there. I'm going to go have a real meal, and then I'll meet you down there. I'm not going to eat fried gator, which is on the menu at the place you went.
Oh, we had gator bites.
Told you. Told you.
We had some gator bites. They were delightful.
Tastes like gizzard. Chewy like gizzard.
I don't know about that.
I think his performance is more disappointing than Emerald not even having the banana cream pie for me.
I think you did if you were to say what is the opposite of what Bo recommended, you did the opposite
and
of
Are you
what I
surprised?
recommended. The exact opposite.
it just kind of happened.
And what I recommended wasn't even bougie.
By the
I
way,
know.
at all.
I know. I'm not proud of it.
I knew that he was off from Friday night. I was at the Cavs game. Great victory over the Bulls. Was a
Of course,
very
you
fun
were
game.
there, Dub.
That's right. Yeah, I demanded an apology. By the way,
Good, as deserved.
Yeah, was not awarded.
sure you
not
weren't
afforded
given one, yeah.
no. But met one of Gibbe's friends, and he said some very hurtful things about me on text to his friend, which I caught wind of.
My friend sends me a text. Gibby, where are you? You in Pittsburgh? I said,
It's a tough week for you.
I said,
all your family
Well,
Browns
I'm
fans
gonna-
and your beloved
I'm-
Steelers coming to town.
Yeah.
not true. Number
So,
one.
For
Not
the people
true.
who are just joining the program for the first time, or those who may be in the live
This
audience
is not
here today
true.
that don't
None of
know
it.
this, behind us is Gibbe,
No.
and he is also known as Pittsburgh Peepaw. So this is going to be, in terms of
I
an
am not a
emotional
Pittsburgh
game,
fan.
This is you bleed black and gold.
You can be won over with nachos.
You have declared their nachos to be the best nachos in all of the world.
in the
yesterday
world.
In the
yesterday
world.
was a strong contender.
So yesterday, the nachos for the strong contender, you got your own bag of Tostitos chips. There was
very
a
strong.
machine that put out cheese, a cheese machine.
A cheese machine of liquid
Yeah.
cheese.
It was awesome.
There
Delightful.
they had
The
Wisconsin's
salsa was
finest.
they
good.
had taken some Tostitos salsa out of a jar and put it in a little
It
container
is
that
not
you could
out of,
spoon.
okay, maybe it was out of a container, but that's a minor
Tostitos
detail.
salsa.
They had some
you could-
jalapenos
And
they
he's like,
put
"Oh,
on.
this is almost as good as Pittsburgh's." I'm like, so Pittsburgh Peepaw, yeah.
This is a tough, big week for him. Big
It's
week.
not a big week. We're going to kick their ass on Thursday. I'm excited.
Listen, on
Listen,
Cleveland Browns
just
Daily,
because-
you can't talk like that. This
First
is on
of-
our show. Don't you wee Pittsburgh on this
I
show.
know. Just because
We're not
you're
gonna have that.
8-2
We're not going to have
doesn't mean
that.
you can come in here and say things like
Parading
that.
around. Like, we're not having that, Gibby.
How could he say that?
It's outrageous.
We have
Outrageous.
documentation of this.
Multiple
How could he say
fronts.
this?
Outrageous.
What was it? We're gonna kick your booty, which
I
is
think
what
that's
Jameis
what he
Winston
said.
said. I think at the in his.
Hey,
I
real
think that
speech-
might have been the problem.
One thing on
a little
this,
vulgarity
too.
never hurt anybody.
We did say James is playing great.
Yeah.
He's playing great. He's playing great. Yes,
And he's giving your offense a chance, and he's allowing for what you saw
Well,
to
we
Jerry
talked about
Jeudy
it.
out of Cedric Tillman. He's allowing for a true evaluation of a lot of these guys on this roster. And what you should feel pretty dang good about is your receiving core is good.
Jerry
It's good.
Jeudy's good. Elijah Moore's good.
Yeah.
Cedric Tillman's good. Chief's good. And
Yeah.
the good news is, 3 of those are under contract for next year, and Elijah Moore wants to stay here. So if
Yeah.
you wanted to stay here, you could feel pretty good about that. You add in Jamari Thrash to the mix as well, and you could feel pretty good about where you're at in that room. I still think at some point, if you've got to play detail, or maybe you're saying we already
Maybe they already know.
I don't know. I liked Jameis is making us. That was fun to watch. It is much more entertaining to watch a loss in which you're offensively competent or fun even, and I think we were.
Yep.
The touchdown throw and run to Judy was great, and then the touchdown throw to Elijah Moore was incredible. The catch was incredible. It was almost a little Santonio Holmes-esque from the Super Bowl win for Gibbe's favorite team over the Cardinals that year. You're getting that is good. What you're getting there is good. I think what this revealed is the issues on the defensive side are stunning.
They came quick too because it was
stunning.
It was, I think, the fourth quarter. I mean, we haven't had one of these since Dallas.
Right.
Well, Washington got us pretty good, but we also put them in a lot of bad spots.
Guess what? You also had, again, special teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're a toe away from giving up the second punt return touchdown of the year. You've already given up a kick return touchdown.
Yeah.
That one directly led to a touchdown. They ended up scoring on that drive, and Corey got just enough of him to get him out of bounds.
Yeah.
But, sometimes I think don't leave that to chance. Like, just chuck him out of bounds. It's just very disappointing what's going on this defense right now. I don't think there's any other way to say it. Unfortunately, I mean, and there were things that you saw at times that were very, very troubling in terms of, what effort, positioning, a lot of things were there. MJ Emerson's starting to play good football again. He and Denzel are playing. I think Denzel's playing all first team All Pro level football.
I hope that our results don't impact how he's viewed from an All Pro perspective.
He should be his first team All Pro.
He should be an All Pro. The way that it's gone.
Listen, and you're going to get a team now on Thursday night that is not afraid to throw the ball down the field. Russell Wilson, if he's done anything, well, it's get the ball down the field to Pickens and Mike Williams, obviously with the game winner 2 weeks ago. You're going to be tested, but our pressure stats in this game were outrageous. We had 11 total pressures in the game. That's it. Mm-hmm. Carr was just easy breezy in there, and he shredded us.
Yeah.
Yeah, disappointing.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough one, certainly. Those are your hot topics of the day, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski from the podium coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And join us Thursday night against the Steelers to cheer on the Browns toward a victory with our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's is proud to support the Cleveland Browns, the Tito's Victory Vodka program, by committing a $1,000 donation to the Cleveland Animal Protective League towards its mission of foster compassion and end animal suffering. Thank you, Tito's, sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Time to head from the podium. Presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Here's Coach Stefanski.
All right, injury front.
You're down about 9.5.
Ruptured fibula. Very disappointed for the young man. That will require surgery. We'll support him throughout that rehab. Other stuff, injury-wise, Jeff Swaim has a concussion, so he's in the protocol. He will be out this week. Denzel Ward has rib and ankle injuries. He'll be day-to-day. Greg Newsome, shoulder injury. He'll be day-to-day. As you know, not practicing today on this short week, so we'll have some injury updates for you as we get going. These Thursday night games don't allow you really to spend much time thinking about the previous one. You got to get on the next opponent, understand what they're about as a team, offense, defense, special teams, all those things. So we need to lock in this week versus a division opponent. Obviously, yesterday, like we talked about after the game, very disappointing. Disappointing going to the fourth quarter with a chance and then not finish that game. And we all share in it. It's an offense, defense, special teams, players and coaches type of thing. So we all share in it. We have to look at all those things and go back to how you win games in this league and correct those things starting this week so you can go out and find a way to win versus a good Steelers team. But with that, I'll take any questions.
Hey, Kevin, you mentioned, it's a team effort, but you're so good on special teams and defense last year and haven't been able to duplicate that this year. What do you think the issues have been?
Well, first thing I'd say is every year stands on its own merit and you don't take previous years with you because teams, you're different, and that's the truth. We have high standards for our entire team. We certainly have high standards for our defense, for our special teams. We have played better. There are things that we know we can improve, and it's a combination of a lot of things, Scott, that we're committed to getting fixed.
And when you went back and watched the film, what did you think of the effort?
Yeah, I thought we didn't play well enough to win, is really what I saw.
But did the effort bother you? I know, people question that. You give 20 points in the fourth quarter, a couple long runs. Do you have any issues with the effort?
Yeah, I think we got out executed a couple times where we just didn't do our job in some moments.
Kevin, with DeWand out, and obviously this is such an important position when you're going against the Steelers. Do you think there is a chance that Judd might be able to play? And can you kind of take us through how that went? Because he was full on the injury report all week. So how did that go down? Yeah,
we'll work through that this week to see, Mary Kay, if Jed can make it to Thursday night. He was full, still feeling that injury. So just felt like it was best to get him some more treatment on that over the weekend.
And do you feel like if he can get out there that maybe he would be your best option to replace DeWand this weekend?
We'll see how it goes over the next couple of days.
Kevin, I want to ask you about the Denzel specifically. Just, you've been around him a while. How is he playing his best football right now in your mind?
Played really well over the time I've been with him. Certainly played really well yesterday, making game-changing plays. And that's one of the things, as you guys know, we've talked about taking the ball away. And those are two examples of him taking that away, going up and getting it on the interception, ripping it out on the fumble. So he certainly is playing at a high level.
Hey, Kevin. Juan Thornhill only played about 23 snaps, I believe. Was that a coaching decision and the decision to only play him that much?
Yeah, we were rotating Ronnie and Juan in that game. Just, we have a lot of guys that we like at that position, so felt like that was the right thing to do.
Okay, so I guess my follow-up is, will that starting spot still kind of be in flux or be under consideration?
Yeah, I think with Ronnie being healthy, and obviously there's been different points where Juan hasn't been healthy, so trying to get both of those guys out there as much as we can.
Kevin, we've asked you guys about things that the players can do to clean things up and execute better, like reducing those penalties, getting takeaways, things like that. As coaches and your coaching staff, what are some of those things that you guys can do to do what you're trying to do and be better?
I think it goes back to we want to put our guys in position to make plays, Cam. I think it's as simple as that sometimes in football, where our job is to make sure our guys are set up for success. So whether it's making sure a guy gets a one-on-one in a blitz or getting a guy open on a pass route, that's what we're constantly trying to do, is put our guys in position to go make plays.
Hey, Kevin, I noticed that Mike Vrabel's on the sideline yesterday, little earpiece in his ear. Earlier, you told us that he wouldn't be involved in game days. So what's going on there? Has something changed or what?
No, I mean, Rabes is involved in a lot of what we do. He's out there on home games. He was able to come to this one. He's listening in on the conversations with us. He's a great resource for me game day, Monday through Friday. So he will continue to do that.
Hey, Kevin, just to follow up on the safeties question, when you say that rotating those guys at that spot is the best thing to do, like, do you mean it's the best thing to do to give you a chance to win, or is it a health thing? Like, what do you mean by that, I guess?
Yeah, I think both of those guys have had injuries, so I think it makes sense to rotate them from that perspective. Both those guys have made plays for us, so it's an opportunity to get Ronnie out there and get him some reps as well.
And then just with DeWand, I mean, losing him now, I guess how difficult does that make it to evaluate what he did on that left side of the line in such a small sample size?
I think it's an imperfect thing, obviously, when you're talking about that type of sample size, but we had plenty of practices there. We had game reps there. So it certainly allows you to, at the end of the season, say, okay, this is what he did on the right side. This is what he did on the left side.
Yeah, Kevin, you've unfortunately had to use disappointing a lot this year and talk about making corrections. The results say the corrections aren't showing up on the field. My question is, why do you think that is? And do you have the attention that you require as a coach from this locker room right now?
Yeah, I think when you're where our record is, Daryl, you're obviously disappointed. Players, coaches, we all share in that. My focus is really finding a way to get a win this week. Anything else taken away from that, I really can't speak to it.
And the inability to score really stands out this season. You know, yesterday, Jameis throws for nearly 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, takes care of the football. You only get 14 points out of that. How do you fix that going into a short week here against a very formidable and stingy Steeler defense?
I think it's always, again, a combination of things, but it's going to be incumbent upon our players, our coaches, give these guys a plan that they can go execute. And typically when you execute, when you do your job, that's where those points come from. That's where those third down conversions come from, points in the red zone, all those things. Very simply, give our guys a plan and then execute the plan.
Coach, just as one of pro football's oldest rivalries, how unique is the Browns rivalry with the Steelers, and how much are you looking forward to getting back in front of the home crowd on Thursday?
Yeah, this is a great division, as you know, with the AFC North, and everybody knows each other so well. And when you have cities in such close proximity, I think that adds to the rivalries, because there's so many people that grew up around here, grew up around Pittsburgh, obviously interact with each other throughout the year. So it makes it special. Being down at our stadium, the last division game was special. I'd expect nothing but the same, especially in the setting of a Thursday night.
Yeah, Kevin, just wondering, what is the feedback or the messaging that you're getting from management and ownership during these tough times?
I think all of us, it really goes back to Mary Kay. We all share in this. Nobody's happy being where our record is, but I know all of our focus is on this game and finding a way to get a win in this game.
Hey, Kevin, is there any thought to bringing in another kicker?
No.
Okay. And why did Nick only play, I think it was 22 snaps yesterday?
Just still having a plan with these guys, bringing them back, making sure that we're using both guys.
Did Thursday, the fact that it's a quick turnaround, have any impact there?
It did.
I just want to ask another one about Dustin Hopkins. Have you noticed anything about why he's having more difficulty kicking this year?
I think there's always things that whether the kicker, the left guard, the safety, it doesn't matter. I think there's always things, technique, that we can work on, work through, get better at. There's things that he wants to do. Certainly we expect him to make those kicks. He expects himself to make those kicks. I've seen him make those kicks. He's been doing this for a very long time, but it's still technique, and he's always going to be making sure that he's sharpening his technique, if you will, and he'll continue to do that for us.
Leaf Filter, the official gutter guard of your Cleveland Browns. Go to leaffilter.com. Go Browns to schedule your free gutter inspection. Receive your exclusive promo offer. That's leaffilter.com/Go Browns. Visit today. We'll go around a very busy sports world. Coming up next, you'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Are you ready to give your home the facelift it deserves? At Renew Home Exteriors, they've got the deal you've been waiting for. Right now, no money down. Get 0% interest for 5 years on all roofing and siding jobs. Combine your roofing and siding projects, and Renew is going to take an additional 5% off. That's right. No money down, 0 interest, 5 years, 5% off when you knock off both jobs at once. Don't wait. Upgrade your home and save big with Renew Home Exteriors. Visit RenewEstimate.com to book today. Renew Home Exteriors, superior products and superior service. Let's handle some of the NFL news of yesterday. Not necessarily all the games, but just the news today. The Giants are moving on from Dan Dimes, so he is finding the bench, and it will be Tommy DeVito from here on out at quarterback for New York, which quite honestly I think is kind of brilliant. It's a perfect cover.
Well, not only you realize they paid $5 million for Drew Lock to be their backup quarterback, but they're not starting him.
Smart.
And you know why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I assume it's because they want to make sure they go 2 and whatever, so they pick 1.
Well, and Drew Lock's contract has all these playtime incentives, so they're basically being like, we're not paying another dime for this season.
Oh, well, that's smart too.
Here's the other thing, though. If you think about it, since they're not even going to play Drew Lock, they could have used that $5 million
with
Saquon Barkley,
which John Mara just standing in that room. I just want it on the record. He's our most popular player.
By the way, I know you don't meddle, but you're the owner.
Just meddle.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is we shouldn't let Saquon go to Philly.
Yes. No.
Maybe don't do that.
Let's not let the face of the franchise go to the rival.
Man. It is obviously not a good time for we're struggling, and Cincinnati losing 1-score games to good teams. It's like 6 times
they were getting
blasted.
Happened.
They were, and they
nice
fought
comeback.
back. But McPherson can't hit field goals, and the Chargers are really good. And here's the deal:
are really good.
They're really good. Harbaugh's accountability, all of it all works.
Herbert,
yeah, he's great. Burrow's been unbelievable.
Burrow's been unbelievable.
They are wasting a Burrow MVP season. That's what they're doing.
Part of me thinks it's like he gets to put up good numbers, but then because of his pregame outfits, that team's just like, yeah, we're gonna lose.
You know what it reminds me of a little bit from their perspective?
What?
It reminds me a little bit of when LeBron was here the first time, and he made that one run to the finals, and then
Spurs.
Yeah. And then looked around and where is everybody? Where's everybody else? And I think that's going to happen this year. Cincinnati's in for one hell of an offseason because they're going to lose. Obviously, they'll lose T. Higgins, and he's
going to get paid.
They're going to have a very brutal negotiation with Jamar Chase because he is not pleased because he felt he was betrayed and lied to this summer, and they said they'd take care of him, and then they didn't. So, and he's putting up a great year, and now all of a sudden they're going to lose Higgins for nothing. And now you got to find a way to pay Jamar Chase, and he's not giving him any discount. He's going to have every penny Justin Jefferson got.
Yep,
that's happening. So that's a mess on that side of things.
So when you have Joe Burrow,
you have a franchise quarterback.
Yeah,
you have to build around it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's 4 teams in the AFC. There's going to end up being 4 teams for 1 spot, and it's Denver, Indy, Miami, and Cincinnati. It's those 4 for 1 spot, for the 7 spot.
Hold on. Denver.
So right now, you're not the Ravens are 7-4.
Yeah, you're not catching them.
You're not catching them. The Chargers are 7-3. You're not catching them. So it's Denver's at 6-5, Indy's at 5-6, Miami's at 4-6. Miami has the game in hand, which is kind of nice. And then Cincinnati's 4-7. Everybody else is done. Jets, Pats, us, Titans, that's done. So it's those 4 teams for 1.
So if you look at it, here, let's do a little quick schedule game. Why not?
Go ahead. What you want to do?
Here we go. Denver.
You got Denver's? I'll pull up Indies. Go ahead. Give me Denver. You write down Denver.
I'm just going to write them back.
Which one do you want me pulling up?
At Las Vegas, home Browns, bye week, home Colts, at Chargers, at Cincinnati, home Kansas City.
Here's Indies.
Okay.
Lions at home on Thanksgiving. Yep. At Patriots. At
Lions at home?
Yeah. Lions at – oh, no. Yeah. No, it says versus Lions on 11/24. Oh, that's next Sunday. That's next Sunday.
Okay.
Next Sunday. Hosting Lions. Used to the 24 being Thanksgiving, but I forgot it's the next week. Hosting Lions, at Pats, at Denver, Titans at home, at Giants, at Jaguars. That is advantageous. I would argue without even looking. I'd bet without even looking.
And what are we at right now? 6 and
they are. Indy's 5-6. Denver 6-5.
Yeah, Cincy 4-7.
You got Miami.
Miami is 4-6.
I'll pull up Cincinnati.
Yeah, Miami goes New England at home, at Green Bay, home for the Jets, at Houston, home for the Niners, at Browns, at Jets. Okay, and who's
here's Cincinnati's. Pittsburgh at home. This is their bye week, so then Pittsburgh at home on the 1st, at Dallas, at Tennessee, us, Broncos, at Steelers.
At Tennessee, Browns, where? Then what?
At Tennessee, us, Broncos at home, at Steelers.
Okay, all right. Denver, at Las Vegas, us.
I mean, two of them play. I mean, they all play.
Yeah.
Those three do.
They need to pick up one more. They need to beat one of the final 4. They could win 2 of these games, by the way. Indy, Cincy. They could beat any of these teams, honestly. KC they had on the ropes. And
you don't know if KC will be engaged either in the last week.
So they've got, let's just call it, I think they've got 3 wins in the bag because they're not going to lose 4 in a row.
No.
So 3 wins in the bag. So
let's get some 9.
That's a minimum of 3.
9 and 8 minimum.
Okay, we'll call that Indy, home Detroit loss, at New England.
I think everything's a coin flip with them,
loss.
honestly, because of the quarterback. I mean, he could throw.
Win. I think they have 4 wins. New England, Tennessee, Giants, Jags.
I'm not totally sold on New England yet, just because I think it's 3.
So we'll give them 3.
Feel
for
very
sure.
good about 3.
Cincy, home for Pitt, at Dallas. That's a win. At Tennessee, I feel pretty good about that. Home with us. Denver, Pittsburgh.
I think they're not going to get swept by Pittsburgh. They have too much offense. So I think they have 4. Yeah,
but that gets them to 8. So right now Denver's still in, and then Miami, home for New England. I do like them. At Green Bay, no. Jets, yes. At Houston, no. Niners, they might only have 3. And they might not even.
So Denver's in a good spot.
Denver's in the best spot. Indy's in the second best spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to have to win a bunch of games in a row.
And if Indy beats Denver, Indy and Cincinnati have the opportunity to beat Denver head-to-head.
Yes. Yeah.
I will tell you, I would imagine in terms of fear factor of teams getting in, Denver and Cincinnati are on a level unto themselves versus Indy and Miami for people.
Oh, my gosh. Well, just Burrow with Cincinnati. Like, they'll score 30.
Denver's...
No, I know, but
Denver might be pretty good.
They might be. They are. I mean, they can.
They're a blocked field goal away from being 7-4 and having beaten Kansas City in Kansas City.
They are. Yes. I just think if you were the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers and you had Bo Nix or Joe Burrow to deal with, I'd deal with Bo Nix.
Of course.
So that's the only thing on that.
There,
side.
it's interesting though, man. I mean, that 38-6 is a straight beating.
Yeah, it was. They're great defensively, and Nix was incredible. He's like at one point 18-20.
Bo Nix in his last 5 games, 71% completions, 1,200 yards passing, 7.4 yards per attempt, 9 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 106 rating. His last few games, in his last 4 games, he's got 9 touchdowns, 1 pick, and has 3 games with a quarterback rating of more than 115. Although they did get smoked in the middle of this by Baltimore.
Yeah. I think, I would much rather play them.
You feel like they're in a pretty good spot as an organization, though, right now.
Yeah. Give Sean Payton his flowers.
Absolutely.
A show that is near and dear to everybody's heart, and especially us here inside the NBA, will be continuing.
Yes.
So this comes out of nowhere, kind of.
Yes.
There was rumors about it over the weekend, but Inside the NBA is going to continue. It will be, honestly, it's one of those rare sports media stories where everybody wins.
Yep.
So we get to keep getting Inside the NBA, and Inside the NBA gets to now be on the NBA Finals and the conference finals.
Oh, my God.
And they've never been on a finals. That group has never been on a finals.
No, they go fishing.
They go fishing.
Well, they
so
go
like
to Galveston.
They get to do the NBA Finals now. ESPN wins as big as possible because they've been trying to replicate that show for 20 years and have never gotten close, and now they don't have to. Now, what I do think is interesting is, like, was this the NBA? Because it's a settlement. Warner sued the NBA over their rights to match on the negotiations when they redid the television deal. And is this the NBA telling ESPN, you're going to take Inside, and Inside's going to be produced by
TNT?
But does ESPN even put up any issue with that?
I'd be
Who's
doing
picking up the
cartwheels.
production cost? I'm guessing
Yeah.
ESPN, or is Turner? Does Turner? I bet you Turner's picking up production costs because Turner got the international rights to the NBA.
Correct.
So, and the only thing for ESPN is you don't control your own show. But I'm guessing they're going to split the sales of it from ads. What do you think?
So here we go. This is from within the last hour, actually. Except when the show goes on the road, TNT Sports will continue to independently produce Inside the NBA from its Atlanta-based studios over the terms of the agreement. The show will appear on ESPN and ABC. Includes ESPN's pregame, halftime, postgame coverage of the NBA Finals on ABC, conference finals, NBA playoffs, all ABC games after January 1st, Christmas Day, opening week, the final week of the season, and other marquee live events.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's great.
So I'm guessing Turner's picking up production cost. ESPN is splitting ad revenue somehow.
Here we go. It's only 7 paragraphs down. As part of the agreement, TNT Sports will also begin showing 13 Big 12 football and 15 men's basketball games next season as part of the sublicense with ESPN.
So this is an offshoot. TNT has two of the college football playoff games this year.
Yeah, they have 2.
They have the 2 on Saturday
Yep.
in the day. ESPN has the 2 night games, but they have the 2 in the day. So there's a partnership here where what happened here is we have the rights to this, but we don't have room for it. So we're going to farm it out to you, and that's what's happening with Big 12 on football and men's basketball.
The agreement is also part of a settlement after Warner Brothers Discovery, the parent company of TNT, sued the NBA.
Yeah, I think it wins everybody. Everybody wins. You get more of Ernie and Chuck and Shaq and Kenny, and now you get them in the finals, which you've never had.
It's going to be great.
So that's awesome.
And you were 100% right. ESPN's studio work for NBA playoff games.
They've tried everything.
Just regular season games.
Yeah,
is brutal.
They've tried everything. They've brought Stephen A. in. They got Wilbon in. The old days they had Bill Simmons come on. Like they've tried everything, and that you can't recreate that magic. You just can't. All right. Boost your game day this season with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Place your first bet of $50 or more and get $150 back in bonus bets. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. The Joe Thomas half hour of the program's coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If a car, truck, or motorcycle accident caused you injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK Ohio for a free case review. Elk & Elk, proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. It is time for the Joe Thomas half hour of the program. It's presented by Twisted Tea Hotline, brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of the Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. I suppose we do have to talk a little football with you, but I did want to start. I know you guys talked last week, I believe, when I was down doing some business. Hoff, you were finally at Allianz, and you were next to Manuel Neuer. You've done it, sir. In Lederhosen, it looked like.
Yes. I had my Bavarian finest outfit there next to the Mr. Goalkeeper, Mr. Neuer. Thankfully, I had some Germans around me who let me know the presence of greatness that I was in, that I should definitely go over and chat him up, and I had to let him know about my stellar career as a goalkeeper up until I was 12 years old, that he's lucky I took the route I did, because otherwise he wouldn't have been considered the greatest goalkeeper of all time.
He's a bit of a German icon. Bayern Munich goalie for like 15 years, and then he was the goalie when they won the World Cup in 2014. He's been the best goalie in the world for over a decade. It was awesome to see those worlds collide, Hoff. Very, very cool.
It was cool, and I immediately realized how legendary he was, outside of like my guys telling me like, hey, you should talk to him, he was the greatest goalie ever. But also when I took the picture and I was like, oh, I'll tag him on Instagram, and I realized you couldn't tag him because he's one of these guys that has 15 million followers, and he's got some special lock on it, so you can't even tag him. So I was like, wow, this guy is a deal. Maybe I should go back over there and try it again.
That's it. That is absolutely it. Okay. This was a new way for us to lose, Hoff. And I guess there's no fun in any of it. But the way that what you saw in the fourth quarter defensively, we haven't seen that from this defense in a while. What did you make of it, and how concerned are you with what you saw?
Well, I'm concerned because now you're at a point in the season where you really can't even fool yourself to think you're a competitor, right? And Z and I talked a little bit about this today offline, and we said, on offense, there's a lot at stake when you're on the field, because no matter what the playoff implications are, right? I'm a left tackle. If I don't block my guy, he's going to kill the quarterback. Like, that's what's going to happen. And so there's pressure no matter what on me to perform and do my job, right? You're a quarterback. You better throw to the right guy or it's an interception and the whole stadium's booing you and you getting benched. Like, you don't have to be playing for the playoffs to be going out there and focused and giving everything you've got. Maybe as a receiver you can kind of loaf on your routes or whatever, and people don't realize it. Maybe your quarterback does and he gets on you, but on the defensive side of the ball, the harder you go, the more violent the collisions, the more dangerous it is for your job for that year, the more injuries you're exposing yourself to, right? And so you get in those situations, and I've been on those teams where there was nothing to play for towards the end of the year, and you're not a young guy, right? Young guys, first, second-year guys, and it's easy to go out there and give everything you got because you have no reputation yet. You're trying to build your reputation, and you're trying to stick around in the league. And I think that's one of the reasons those two seasons that we went 0-16 and 1-15 that I was on, like, the guys were playing super hard. There was never a time during that season, and Z will tell you, like, there was never a question about, hey, are these guys playing hard? It was just we weren't very good. Like, that's why we were losing. But when you have a veteran-laden team that have built a career already and a reputation, and they're starting to think about, okay, next year, like, I'd like to be healthy. I maybe don't want quite as much beatings on my body. They maybe lack a little bit of focus down the stretch when the game's maybe out of hand or the season's starting to be out of hand, and you're not going to get the same level of putting your body on the line in a situation like that on the defensive side as you would early on in the season, or if there were still things from a playoff standpoint to be on the line. And I think you saw it kind of at the end, right? A little bit of a lack of focus. Maybe you're giving effort at the beginning of the play, but when you feel like, I don't think I can get there, I can't make the play, or it's going to take some superhuman effort and I might get myself hurt, the human nature on the defensive side of the ball is just to turn it down one click. Self-preservation starts taking over a little bit, and that's why when you play against a team down the stretch that's got nothing to play for, you always feel like, hey, as long as we beat them down in the first half, we're going to win in the second half, because they're not going to want to continue to give that effort, which is hard. It's a hard game. It's a violent game. You're putting your career and your body on the line every single time, and you know that guys start to make those type of decisions down the stretch where it is self-preservation mode, and that's unfortunate because it was a game that you felt like you could win, and then we just gave up silly things because of lack of focus and lack of effort down the stretch.
Do you feel like being at home on national TV, Thursday Night Football, that kind of just that environment, and you're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, that cures a lot of that? Or do you kind of look around our team and say, okay, Jameis Winston, this is his first season here. This is Jerry Jeudy's first season here. Cedric Tillman and Elijah Moore, it's only their second seasons here with the Cleveland Browns. Yes, you have David Njoku, who's been here the whole time, but there aren't a lot of guys on this team that really have been through what you would call kind of, a rivalry of Browns Steelers. I mean, how many people are even here still from the team that beat the Steelers in the playoffs in 2020? Joel?
Yeah,
Miles, Denzel?
Not many, right? So does the fact that it's the Steelers, and we were talking earlier, when you have a season that goes the way that this one has, and unfortunately, it is where it is, that, in college, for example, if it were Michigan this year, they're at home, they get the Buckeyes. Their goal is to just try to spoil the Buckeyes and at least get that win, right? Do you feel those things in an NFL locker room? Like, do you expect the fact that it's Browns Steelers to matter, or is it more that it's Thursday Night Football, or is it at this point when you're 2-8, not a whole lot is gonna get people going at a level that you would like to see?
Look, I think the players that haven't been here very long, they're never going to have the hatred or the desire to whack the Steelers and knock them off their playoff trajectory like the guys that have been here a long time, and certainly not like the fans that have lived and died and hated the Steelers since they were in their crib and their parents were telling them the Steelers suck. I mean, look at my son. We're riding at the Hall of Fame parade, and he's booing and flipping off the Steelers fans. I mean, it's learned, right? It's operant conditioning from the time you were born in Cleveland, right? And so it's never going to be on that level. But I think, to your point, they get it, that this is a big rivalry. They understand this is a big moment, even though we're not playing for the playoffs anymore. It's going to be a packed stadium. Fans are going to be there. And if you show up and you show out like you can, you got a chance to beat these guys and then be the heroes for the day, right? And so I think that is meaningful. And I think there is a reset between each game, right? Because you go back, you watch the film, the coaches start chewing some butts. All of a sudden, the whole week is focused on the Steelers, and you do realize that it is a big moment, right? Thursday Night Football, it's the only game on TV in the world of American football right there. And so that everybody's going to be the energy, the excitement, and I do think you're going to get that great effort to start. Look, this game was in New Orleans, not exactly hated rivals. They're not a good team. Not many people outside of New Orleans and Browns fans are watching. And so there is that human nature to maybe dial it back a little bit towards the end when you feel like maybe it's better for your own interest to have some self-preservation. But I think, like I said, two things. One, it kind of resets every week because the coaches have a chance to chew butts, get things right. And then you are going out there as a competitor at the beginning of the game like, hey, let's go win this thing. And then being on national TV, Thursday Night Football against your hated rival, I think there's a little extra juice there. So I'm not concerned about that sort of carrying over from week to week.
Hoff, you mentioned the human nature of it. So I had had youth basketball yesterday, and a guy came up to me, and obviously I knew the result at that time, and he goes, well, look, we're going to be happy about this in April, right? Because the fans, where are we drafting, right? They're smart. They can do math, and they can see where you're at, and their attitudes can be that at this point. Like, let's just get to the draft, and hopefully we pick high. Maybe it's a quarterback. Who knows? And that's kind of where fans are. How, as a player, how much of that do you hear, and how do you combat that? Because this is kind of the worst place an organization can be, where coaches and players, you play to win the game. Right? That's the line from Herm Edwards. Yeah. You guys play to win the game, but big picture, what fans may want, or whatever this offseason is going to look like may want, it's kind of diametrically opposed. How do you block that out and not make that be a distraction? What's that even like?
So I lived in Cleveland year-round when I was playing there, and had a lot of friends that were unrelated to football, right? I had my fishing buddies, my hunting buddies, my buddies that were in the neighborhood. And so on Tuesdays during the season, I'd try to get out on the lake, go fishing, go yank some lip, catch some perch, put some walleye in the freezer, try to go deer hunting, goose hunting, whatever. And so I was with those guys, and, they obviously understand it's sensitive a little bit, but at the same time, you wind up talking about the season. It's a safe space in the duck blind. And you do hear a little bit of that, and you understand it. But I think for the most part, guys that haven't been here, maybe don't live here in the off season, there's just probably a few guys that would be like that have a lot of friends that are just born and bred Cleveland Browns fans. I think for the most part, guys aren't hearing any of that, and that's certainly not the conversation in the locker room or in the building, because there's no guarantee that any of those guys are going to be here next year outside of like a Myles Garrett, and even that, right? It's like, hey, maybe he gets traded. Like that was the conversation before the trade deadline. So I think if anything, if you're a bubble guy, you're going, I don't want us to have a better draft pick because I certainly don't want them to replace me. Like I want my job. And if you're not playing for this team, you're putting film out there to try to make the next team, right? And so I think there is a lot of selfish motivation down the stretch. Like, hey, I really don't care what our draft pick is. If anything, I don't want to give them a reason to replace me with a high draft pick.
Hoff, we talked about not only the fact the Browns lost this game, you and I talked about you lose DeJuan Jones. And DeJuan didn't allow pressure in this game. I thought he was quite dominant in this game. I thought this was one of his best performances in the league. That offensive line is a brotherhood, and when a situation like that happens, and I don't know if people have been able to go back and watch it, but I've watched it, and they ran a little bit of a twist there, and Wyatt got knocked off balance, and then he steps on Ethan Posic's foot, so he completely gets off balance and gets basically thrown back into DeJuan, who's engaged with Chase Young, and it obviously breaks his leg and ends his season. That's got to be so hard when it's an accident, it's an inadvertent thing, it's a step on a foot, and that leads to something like that. How do you deal with that in that room?
Well, that was tough. I mean, even for me, I don't know DeJuan all that well. I just know the few times I've had a chance to meet him and just watching and hearing how important it is to him, right? Like he wants that spot. He wants to be the starting left tackle for the Browns, and he earned it at that point, right? I mean, there was a reason he was in the game playing, and he played great. And to see him on the cart, tears in his eyes, I mean, I started tearing up just watching at home, and that's just because you feel for a guy like that, right? And I think when you see a player who is starting to realize his dream, who is giving everything he's got for the organization, for the team, because it's the most important thing in his life at that moment, it's hard, it's sad, it's tough, it's brutal, it's all those things, all those emotions. And that was a tough one to see, because you watch it and all of a sudden he's down and he's got the leg in the air. It was an interesting reaction, and all I can chalk it up to is the toughness of the guy, because it was like the shoe was untied for a second. He was just laying down, had the foot in the air, and you're like, okay, maybe he's okay. Maybe he's just shook up a little bit or something. They roll him over, and then I think everybody started to realize it was pretty bad. As soon as you watch that replay, you could see the bone kind of sticking there, and it was really ugly. And then all of a sudden the reality hits you that, his season's over and he's got a long rehab process ahead of him. And as a big guy, it's harder to recover from those lower body, lower leg injuries. And it was devastating. I think the offensive line is such a brotherhood. You feel for each other deeply, and you have to play as one, and you feel terrible when one of your guys gets hurt, especially if you've got something to do with it. And I think that it kind of shows like how important the little tiny details are on the position, because, Wyatt's not really in terrible position, but he's just a little bit off balance when he's trying to engage the twister, and, maybe Jack doesn't quite get enough on the penetrator, and just tiny little things like that happen. And all of a sudden, then because you're just a little off balance, you're trying to regain your balance. Then you step on a foot, and now you're off balance, and you're a big body flying through the air, hitting another big body. It's like, a cascade of terrible, tiny little mistakes into a big event. And it's really sad, right? I haven't talked to Joel, but I'm sure he was just there thinking the same thing I was, like just feeling for his brother that had given so much and that had finally earned that spot, and now he's going to be done for the year. And you don't know what the timetable of a recovery like that is going to be.
Hoff, on on a positive note, and obviously when the record is what it is, it's hard to find them. But there's one thing that I think we can all say, that with Jameis at quarterback, you see that you have a more than capable receiving core. You see these guys making plays down the field, and it's one thing about playing Jameis, like he will throw the ball down the field. What are you seeing offensively as we are in this situation where we're playing out the rest of the season, but also trying to keep an eye on what this offseason will look like? Is that should that at least be a little bit of a warm blanket for Browns fans, that there are weapons now that you can see on display with a quarterback who will throw it down the field?
And that's the conversation that I'm sure is happening internally between playing DTR and playing Jameis.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it on the show already. Like, hey, should you be playing DTR at this point, right? Should you find out what you have in that guy? And I know there's a strong argument to see what you have at the quarterback position. You don't know what's going to happen with Jameis next year, but I think just as important is to give these receivers who are fresh an opportunity, right? Give them the best chance to show what they can do, what their skill sets are, to see what part of the offense that they can be next season. And I think Jameis gave us a great argument as to why he's still playing, right? He gives you a chance. He gives you a chance to win any game, and he's giving your receiving core an opportunity for those guys to show up and to show that they belong and that they can possibly be part of the long-term plans here for the Browns.
Yeah, and I was saying, he's showing you, obviously, a couple of things, right? Number one, that he can still play at a high level, and I thought he did a much better job in this game of protecting the football. Number two, he's showing you, what you've got in Jerry Jeudy, that Elijah Moore's still got a lot more juice than I think people realize. Cedric Tillman, the Chiefs still got it. And at the same time, I do think, and maybe they know the answer, and maybe that is the answer, but, you want to see, I would think, because he's under contract for 2 more years, can DTR be our backup for a while? Can he play 4 games in a row? If we need him to start 4 games, could he do that? And you still have plenty of time, obviously, to see that, but there's no doubt that when Jameis is on, you don't lead the NFL in passing and throw for over 5,100 yards in a season if you can't throw the football. Now, he has, over his career, been prone to turning it over, but he's had 2 games now with the Browns where he has not turned the ball over, and Baltimore came with a bit of luck and perhaps Jim Donovan intervention. But this one, there were a couple that bounced around, but there weren't any that were egregious. And I thought he did look good. And our offense was good. We just couldn't, in high leverage situations, deliver. And then obviously when your kicker's not making kicks, and we've seen around the league, when you have a kicker who misses kicks, you're not going to win because you're selling for 3, which is already kind of a mini victory for the defense. And then when those 3s become 0s, that third down play that forced field goal actually becomes a 7-point play. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think people are reevaluating, certainly over the last decade, the value of a field goal versus going for it on 4th down. I mean, whoever the guy is that came up with the scoring of the NFL, God bless his soul, he made 3 points for a field goal, and 2 field goals, still not as much as a touchdown and an extra point. And I think the simplicity of that, but when you think about it, is like, well, that makes sense because it is a huge victory for the defense if the offense gets down there and can't score a touchdown. So the ability to punch it in and not have to rely on a kicker to try to kick 3 to just save something out of a wasted opportunity in the red zone is big. But like you said, you go out of there and you miss a field goal or a couple of them, it becomes really challenging to win. But it's interesting. And, you're trying to read the tea leaves, what's going to happen with Deshaun next season, just like all the fans are. And I think the Browns, one thing they've done since Stefanski's been here is like there's not a lot of leaks. Like you're not hearing a lot of stuff coming out of there about what their plans are moving forward. But maybe this is a little bit of a hint from the team standpoint to what type of quarterback that we're going to have under center next year, right? Because Jameis is under center, more run the ball, play action, typical Kevin Stefanski offense. And we assume DTR would be more like in the shotgun run game type stuff. And if they thought we were trying to prepare our blockers specifically for the shotgun running scheme, you would think that maybe they would say, hey, put DTR in there and continue to work on the shotgun running game. But since Jameis is the guy that's in there and they continue to run successfully, might I add, the under center stuff, maybe that's just a little bit of a hint towards what they're thinking as far as next season and down the line, the type of offense that they want to run and the type of quarterback they want back there.
Huff, let's go around the AFC North here. You mentioned the simple math on 2 field goals doesn't equal a touchdown. If I were to tell you that Pittsburgh would not score a touchdown and beat Baltimore, what would you have said?
Isn't that crazy? I was on the
second time this year.
I know.
Munich. It's crazy. Like the Steelers to me are the big threat in the AFC to Buffalo or Kansas City, certainly, because it's like you can't understand how they're winning, but they're winning, right? Obviously, we know great defense, but it's like you shouldn't be able to win games against the Ravens and score touchdowns against that defense, but they find a way. And to their credit, they're a dangerous team when they get to the playoffs, because what do you take away, right? What are the matchups that you say, oh, they're not going to be able to win that game? And playoff football is so much about matchups. Like, hey, okay, this team comes in, they're really good in the secondary, and they like to throw the ball, and they're going to score a lot of points. Well, if they run into a team that's playing great defense and going to run the ball, like, they might not be able to stop them. All of a sudden, the weather's nasty, especially if you're playing in the AFC North, and they get knocked off. And I think the Steelers are that type of team that's just balanced. They find a way to win. They don't make mistakes in critical moments. And that's a dangerous team against anybody.
Is Mike Tomlin a Coach of the Year favorite, in your opinion?
I would say so. I mean, the traditional thinking, and certainly today's NFL, is like you got to have a elite quarterback play to be at the top of your conference. And they've done it now with two different quarterbacks. Of course, Russell Wilson is playing well, but it's not like they're lighting up the scoreboard with a bunch of touchdowns. And I think really the measure of good coaching is how good your team is in situational football, red zone, backed up, goal line, third down, penalties, mental mistakes. Like, that's sort of your mark of how good your coach is, right? How can your coach take a team that's maybe evenly matched and come out and get the victory from week to week? So I think certainly Tomlin is going to be, if not the front runner, one of those top maybe three coaches. I think Dan Campbell obviously has got the inside track to that, but if something happens to the Lions down the stretch, I would say Tomlin's then your next guy up.
Huff, are the Bengals cooked?
Yeah, with the defense like that, it's over. No matter if everybody keeps talking about Joe Burrow playing MVP caliber football, I don't care how good your offense is if your defense can't stop anybody.
It's just wild. They have not beaten a good team all year, and they've lost, I think, 6 games by 6 one-score games. They just anti-clutch. They can't finish. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. Speaking of, we're talking about Coach of the Year, and you got to mention obviously Dan Campbell with the Lions. We haven't seen a team that just annihilates people and pours it on. They feel like a college team playing like a mid-major.
Like
every
95
week.
Nebraska. They beat everybody 49-7.
It's nuts.
You can't get a number big enough. It was 13.5 this week.
Yeah, and it was over 14, I think, by kick, and just an absolute beating. What do you make of what the Lions are doing right now, Huff? Because we haven't seen, for example, the Chiefs have one loss, but they've won, so they are the opposite of the Bengals. They are the clutch
who's
team.
the last one, guys, who was like this in your mind's eye? Was like first-year Mahomes Chiefs like this, where they buried people?
They buried people. The Ravens, the year they didn't go win a Super Bowl, but they were burying people. Lamar's first MVP season, they were annihilating people.
The Rams, I remember, greatest show on turf. They lost in the Super Bowl to the.
Yeah, but
that's 20-some years.
Yeah, we're going back.
Hoff, can you think of anybody from your playing career who just annihilated people like that?
I'm thinking the 16-0 Patriots. I can't remember all the scores, but I remember when they had Randy Moss and they were just, throwing the ball up to him. And I feel like in my memory, without looking at it and being unprepared for this question, I feel like they were smashing people. I just remember games too, like in Foxborough, it's snowing, it's raining, everybody thinks it's going to be a low-scoring game. All of a sudden they drop 50 on somebody. So I think it's something like that. But to me, the amazing thing with Detroit is it's not all coming through the air. Like, yeah, Goff is playing great, but they're just smashing people in the run game, and they're just doing it at will. Like you said, it's like a major back in the old days when like a Big Ten team would play a MAC school like that and win by 50 points. So it's crazy to think, because the NFL is just built for parity, and your best teams pull out victories by a score or two routinely, and these guys just smash everybody, and they're putting their backups in the second half.
All right, here's the Patriots 2007. 38-14 over the Jets, 38-14 over the Chargers, 38-7 over the Bills, 34-13 over the Bengals. So your closest game is 21 points through 4 weeks. 34-17 over the Browns, got it to 17. 48-27, 49-28, so that's 21-21. 52-7 over the then Commanders. 24-20, 56-10 over the Bills. 31-28, 27-24, 34-13, 20-10, 28-7, 38-35. Then the playoff games were all relatively close, 31-20, 21-12, and they lose in the Super Bowl. Okay, Lions this year. Now again, granted they do have some losses, but the Lions this year, they go 26-20, then 20-16 a loss to the Bucks, 20-13 over the Cardinals, 42-29 over Seattle, 47-9 over the Cowboys, 31-29 over the Vikes, 52-14 over the Titans, 24-14, 26-23, and then 52-6.
Here's the thing they're doing, Hoff, that I think's incredible is when they play bad teams, they bury. Like there's no chance. Like it's done.
You have 3 games here by 38 or more in the last 6 games.
In the NFL.
In the NFL. 47-9 over the Cowboys, 52-14 over the Titans, and 52-6 over the Jags. The Jags are stupefying. I mean, now they're playing Mac Jones. Not that surprising, but still. And they've got the Bears twice on their schedule to go and the Colts. My word.
Yeah, it's that game this weekend was crazy to me because I called the Jaguars game in London, and their defense is sort of set up not to get buried, right? They're like, we've been built by the defensive line. They've got Trayvon Walker, first-round pick, first overall.
Yep.
They've got like guys that can rush the passer, but they're really built to stop the run and not give up big plays and not get buried, like bend but don't break. And so for them to give up that type of a score is humiliating because if anything, you're going to be able to just keep it close down the stretch. So that might be the last one for Doug Peterson. I think they're on bye this week.
Joe, what did you make of as we kind of take this out and extrapolate around the league a little bit, these rookie quarterbacks? Because early on it was Jane Daniels was sensational, and then he took that hit, and he's kind of been a little wobbly since. Caleb's had moments, and then Bo Nix has been incredible for a month now. This is a kid who played 6 years of college football. And obviously that's very beneficial, but I don't think anybody had him in the category of these other guys, and he was incredible in the game and has been for about a month. What do you make of this year's group of rookie quarterbacks as they matriculated through now past the halfway point in the season?
Yeah, I think on average most guys have exceeded expectations, Caleb Williams notwithstanding, but What I think when you talk about those 4 guys you just mentioned, or Drake May, I think
Drake May too, yeah.
I think he's been playing good football too. I think it goes to their style of play a little bit. So if you've got a quarterback who can use his legs and make off-schedule plays, he doesn't have to fully understand what the defense is trying to do to him to be able to make some great plays down the field. And I think Daniels in Washington did a great job of not only making off-schedule plays, but understanding when it was time to run, it was time to scramble, but then keeping his eyes downfield, throwing the ball, and he did a great job reading the defenses. But after 4 games, 6 games, 8 games, defenses start figuring out what your tendencies are, and they can start clamping down on some of that stuff, and then they're going to force you to do the things that you haven't shown ability to do. And so I think those guys that are more athletic make more off-schedule plays. They start faster. Teams figure them out. Gets a little slower in the middle of the season, and then it becomes that moment of, okay, can you be a great quarterback in the league? Can you go to 2.0 version of yourself? Make that next evolution, take that next step, prove to the league that you can beat those things that have been a problem early on. Whereas the guy who's more of the pro style, like the Bo Nix, the Drake May, guys with a little bit less mobility, but more of an in-the-pocket passer, they're going to start slow, right? Because defenses in the NFL are so much more challenging. But then they're just kind of putting those little building blocks on top of each other. They're making steady progress. And then by the middle of the season, the end of the season, they're starting to play more like a veteran quarterback where you don't have so many easy ways on defense to put them into a bind. And so I think that's kind of what you're seeing there. But overall, I mean, you get 3 pretty darn good rookies in a rookie class in the first round. That's probably above what the average is when it comes to guys that, can be the franchise quarterback. And I think we're not totally out on Caleb Williams right now. I think he's had some struggles. I think part of that is the
scheme in the line.
the team, the organization, the offensive coordinator that he's dealing with, which is, goes back to, if you're going to bring in a first overall pick at quarterback, let's find an offensive coordinator and an offensive mind, preferably the head coach that's going to be with him a long time, right? Because that's the most important asset in your organization. And to keep a coach that's maybe got a year on, and then he's going to be done, seems like malpractice from an organization standpoint, because potentially he's going to be starting over with a new staff, and he's a quarterback that maybe has some shaky confidence going into year two with everything being new again, potentially from an offensive standpoint and from a head coach, and then, of course, all the turnover that happens when you do replace your coach.
Hoff, why do you think, Jaden Daniels, and I know it's kind of coincided with the injury, but it was something that I noted going into the season, and if you go back and look at those Arizona Cardinals teams under Cliff Kingsbury, they're always great first-half teams. The offense is explosive. They put up a ton of points, and then in the second half, it just completely sputters out. Is that just, do teams just figure it out, and then they don't have a counterpunch? Why does that happen?
I never played in the air raid. It wasn't an offense that was in the NFL when I was there. But just watching Arizona and covering a few of their games, and then Wisconsin had an air raid coordinator until I think this morning we just fired our offensive coordinator. But the problem is it's a simple offense. It's not like super game plan specific. You kind of do the same thing over and over again. Now the receivers and the quarterback, they have options on every route. So it's much more freelance, more like the motion offense in basketball. But when you start playing and you see it over and over again, then you kind of figure out, okay, what are their tendencies? And then on defense, you just try to take away their tendencies. And if they don't have that counter punch, which is hard in the air raid because, like I said, it's simple. They don't have a huge playbook. I think it becomes difficult to pivot, right? The Patriots, they were, textbook game plan specific. Every week they were doing something different. And so it becomes a little bit tougher when you got that thick playbook and you can kind of pick a different chapter for each week, depending on who you play, versus an offense that is just kind of like, hey, this is who we are, and we're going to just kind of out-athlete you. That, I think, is tough to maintain in the NFL.
All right, Hoff. We'll see you Thursday, buddy. Thank you for your time.
Hoff.
Sounds good. Can't wait to see you guys.
Can't wait, brother.
Feasting on Wednesday, Z.
Yes. The preparations are underway.
All right, there you go.
All right, take care, guys.
The Joe Thomas half hour of the program. Rumpke Waste Recycling, the recycling leader, invests over $100 million to build North America's largest, most technologically advanced recycling center right here in town. Visit rumpke.com to learn more about tours and how this facility helps grow our circular economy. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey, Browns fans, this month, winner of the local business platform presented by Minutemen is Brewed Awakening. Brewed Awakening is the go-to cafe for coffee and food lovers with locations in both Amherst and Vermilion. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/community/local business platform to learn more. Time for your great clips, great clip of the game, great clips. It's going to be great. Here's Jerry Jeudy's 89-yard touchdown in quarter number 1.
Browns' third drive beginning on the 11-yard line. Play fake to Chubb. Winston climbs the pocket under pressure. Eyes downfield. Throws. Caught by Jeudy on the run. 40. Midfield. Jeudy at the 45-40. Saints 30. Jeudy. It's a foot race. 20. 10. Weaving. Touchdown.
First Browns. Am I on now? Now I'm on. There you go. First Browns play over 40 yards this season. 5th longest play in Browns history. Good for Jerry.
It's great. Yeah. First 100-yard game as a Brown, 6th of his career. Second highest yardage total he's ever had in a game, 142. He's got 13 catches the last 2 weeks, over 200 yards. Got the touchdown. And you're seeing what he can do as kind of that lead horse in your pass game. Tillman had a solid game. Elijah Moore made some big catches. Njoku had 9 catches. It was good. I mean, there was a lot of good. Yeah, that is a good core. Nick Chubb had in terms of yards per carry and overall rushing yards, his best game since coming back. It still is not quite where, you want it to be or what you've come to expect from Nick Chubb, but in reality, it's probably not all that surprising. That was a devastating injury that was suffered last season.
I feel like we did our very best to prepare people for that reality.
Yeah.
And we would mention, we would talk about 2 catastrophic surgeries. It wasn't 1, it was 2. And usually if you do get back to some variation of what you are, it's more of an 18-month thing to get back to that. And it's really remarkable he's playing.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, considering he's had 3 catastrophic knee surgeries.
Yeah.
But it might be one of those things where whatever his getting back to what we used to see of Nick Chubb, if it's possible, it might be like next year, a full off season if he can get through it. Kevin also said today in his availability that they also were thinking about the short week with Pittsburgh for him because I think he only had 22 snaps. And
he did.
That was kind of – he said that they considered that in the snap count for Nick Chubb too.
Well, and also they got to a point in the game where they were in 11 personnel and shotgun, and they bring Jerome Ford in those situations. So, yeah, you're hoping that there was a little bit more daylight for him to run in this week's game, and you hope that that's a harbinger of things to come. But still, at the end of the day, it's not like this was, this was about the forward pass, and he did a great job. Now, Nick Chubb in this one, 3.8 yards after contact per carry. That is what Nick Chubb does. That is exactly what he used to do. And yards per attempt, 4.5. So that means you got about half of a yard down the field or 0.7 yards down the field before taking contact. If they can get that to 1.5, then he's back to averaging 5 yards a carry and being the Nick Chubb that he thought. Now, one of the things that I thought was very, very troubling in this game is, when you flip it around on the other side, Taysom Hill had 138 yards rushing. He had 123 yards after contact.
Yeah, that's wild.
He averaged 17 and a half yards after contact per rush. He forced 8 missed tackles or went through 8 tackles. That's how many games have we had double-digit missed tackles this year? And this is another one. We had 11. Or I'm sorry, that was them. We had 10. It's just you can't have double-digit missed tackles in the National Football League.
Listen, I mean, we're an hour and 45 minutes into this. Yeah. Here's the reality. We don't really do anything well.
We throw for 400 yards.
But we don't score.
We did.
We have 1 20-point game on the year. One.
Is that really real?
Yeah. We beat Baltimore. We had 29. That's it.
That's
the list. So we don't score. We haven't tackled really well. Our defense has been mostly passable. This was something else entirely. The Dallas game and this game, and then our special teams isn't great. We're missing kicks. I mean, Corby Orquez is the star of the team, and Denzel Ward.
We have 24 points the last 2 games. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
And that's the thing, and we're like, oh, Jameis said it looks so much better,
but we can't put it in the paint.
Yeah. Now D-Hop makes his field goals. We score 20 in this game,
right? But to Joe's point earlier, and as you and I, you got to score touchdowns,
yes.
And you bog down in the red zone and you can't score touchdowns. I mean, there's no way there's another. Who's the worst? Is Carolina the worst offensive team in the league?
I think on a points per game basis, it might be Miami. because when
they definitely
when
have
they
20-point
didn't
games,
have
though.
when they didn't have Tua.
All right, you look up. I'm going to look up Carolina. You look up New England because I know Miami scored 20. So
no, we were the only one that hadn't scored 20 when we
Carolina in losses scored 22, 24,
yes, that's
20,
already twice. That's already more.
22. They scored 20 twice in wins. So they've won 3 games. Carolina has.
They won back-to-back games.
Yeah, and they're over 20 in both.
All right.
So only other team I could think of was New England because they were really bad for a while.
20 in week 2, 21 in week 6, 25 in week 8, 22 this week against the Rams.
Yeah, and we've done it once.
Miami had a stretch where they were. I bet they played Miami. Yeah, Miami had the stretch without Tua. So Miami now has scored 27, 27, 23, 30 with Tua back. When they didn't have Tua, it was 3, 12, 15, 10.
You know who's really bad? Who's probably the what was the? I think 3 second were the worst, but the second worst might be New York. They scored 21 against us. They scored 20 against Seattle. They scored 22 against the Commies, so they had 3. But the most points they scored this season was 22. Oh no, they scored 29 against the Seahawks. Yeah, so they've done it 3 times. So yeah, there's nothing you're going to hang your hat on at this point and say this is what we do. And so what you have to do as an operation, what you have to do as a coaching staff, what you have to do as players this week is it is a short week. I like what you said earlier. You owe it to yourselves and you owe it to these fans on Thursday night at home to show up and show out and at least give your best. If you play. Pittsburgh is a bit of a juggernaut right now. They're not offensively, but they just find ways to win.
They play tight games, though.
They play a lot of tight games. And so it can be in the mix. Like, give yourself a chance to win a Thursday night and feel good on a Friday morning and allow for a victory Friday. That's the job. Forget anything else. Whatever's happened has happened. You have a quarterback now who will throw the ball down the field, protect on Thursday night the best you can. Defense, have some pride under the lights on a Thursday. And give yourself a win on a Thursday, and then deal with the rest of it as it comes. But that's where you are.
They only have 3 wins that were more than 1 possession all season.
Pittsburgh.
Chargers in week 3, but when Herbert was hurt.
Yeah.
They beat them 20-10. They beat the Raiders 32-13. They beat the Jets 37-15. That's it. Everything else. They beat Washington 28-27. They beat Baltimore 18-16. Yeah, that's the only. They only have 2 games where it's been more than a 1 possession game.
Yeah, their clutch meter is just quite
through
good.
The roof right now.
Quite good. We've got a score for a Monday nighter. You have that to look forward to, plus so much more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Catch a special Monday night edition of the Browns Preview Show. It's tonight from 7 to 8 on the University Hospital Cleveland Browns Radio Network on 850 ESPN Cleveland as well. Isaiah McGuire and Andrew Siciliano join Ken and Gerard as we quickly turn the page to Thursday night football. We got a Monday nighter tonight. It is Texans. Go ahead, Gibby. Sorry. Go ahead. Didn't mean to steal your
good.
thunder.
Normally we've got 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
we
got a little bit of time.
We have a little bit of time. The Houston Texans are 2-3 on the road. Good news, they're going to Big D and Dallas, who is 0-4 at home, and they've lost 4 in a row and 3-6 on the football season. It's the battle for Texas supremacy. Houston visiting Dallas. Bo Bishop.
Well, Nico Collins is back.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
Positive?
Nico Collins is back. Cooper Rush is quarterbacking Dallas. Dallas is in shambles. I think that my hunch is the McNair family would love nothing more than to bury Dallas on Monday night at Jerry World, and I think they do.
I'm with you. This is another one where I was trying to think of what would the number have. I was thinking 14.5 would make me
something like that. Big, yeah, multiple touchdown, or at least touchdown, a couple of field goals. Yeah. It feels like you want to bury them. They've been in the shadow of Dallas. Everybody's in the shadow of the Cowboys, but like forever.
1 minute.
Like, if you get a chance, and I think they will, and Nico back, and it sounds like they were really cautious bringing him back so that when he's back, he's good.
He's good to go.
So, and they're different with him. So, yep.
All right. Well, tomorrow, active day. Tomorrow, big podium day. It's the only podium day of the week. We'll hear from the QB. We'll hear from the defensive end, Joel Bitonio.
Coordinators?
Every coordinator?
No coordinators.
No, shoot.
We'll meet the Pukers.
30.
A little Microsoft Minute and one thought.
There you go.
Busy Tuesday. We
there
turn
you go,
the
kids.
page.
All right.
There you go. The next level's coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.